excited to continue our summer speaker series. I'll be sending out the recordings from these sessions because I think these are really, really valuable sessions that we host every summer. 2 weeks ago, we had Tyler Decker, top agent and sales leader in the Grand Rapids market. And Tyler just is really developing into a stellar leader. He's always been a great agent, and he had some great insights that he shared with us. But I'm really excited today to have Kevin McIntire with us. For those of you who have not yet met Kevin, Kevin's only been with the organization a few short years. It really hasn't been that long, although I feel like I've known Kevin for a long, long time. He was actually, him and I originally connected through a mutual acquaintance, and Kevin was contemplating coming into the business, and this mutual acquaintance connected us. And we had a number of conversations before he decided to kind of take the leap and leave his past career and join the organization. So Kevin, thank you for joining us today. I know you had to juggle a few things and move a few things to kind of put this together. I really just wanted to start off, though, giving you a little bit of time to tell your story a little bit, because you came from a business that had nothing to do with insurance, and somehow you figured out how to navigate into this business. You chose to serve two gods, and that you worked in that other career and in this career for a period of time together and managed that really, really well, and then kind of took the leap. So I'd love you to take just a few minutes to kind of tell your story a little bit, if you would.
Sure. Well, hello, everybody. I see a lot of familiar faces on here, but tons of people I don't recognize. So that's awesome. And another thing, I've been on these Zoom calls before. I don't want to just be a talking head here to you today. So please write down questions. I want to be helpful. So if anything I say triggers something, just write a question down. Hopefully we'll have time at the end to answer them, because I really do want to be helpful. I don't want you to just get off this call not learning anything. So as far as my story, I was in insurance in the P&C side, probably in the early 2000s, and absolutely hated it. I couldn't stand P&C, but I did enjoy life insurance. Shortly after, about 2002, I felt a call into ministry. Was a music pastor at a local church for about 17 years here in our community in Auburn. Started to develop some hearing issues, and because of that, did start looking into an alternate career, knowing I couldn't do that forever, and kind of went back to my insurance roots. I took the licensing exam. When I took the licensing exam back in 2019, there was a Medicare section that I did not remember, at least from the previous time that I had taken it. It really intrigued me. My thought was, if it's this confusing to me and I'm trying to study for it, I can't imagine turning 65 and trying to navigate that on your own. So I did look into things like ship counselor. What does it mean to help people through it? Can I actually make a living doing this? Talk to some people, and through, Silas will tell you, a very lengthy back and forth via email and asking questions, determined, yes, this is something that I can do for a living. And then once I was brought on to health markets in February of 2020 was kind of my launch day, right when COVID hit. What a great time to start a business. Then I was introduced to like marketplace, things like that, to make the portfolio a little more well-rounded. And so yeah, made the leap, and did work in the church and with health markets, both full-time for a year before I made the break and jumped full-time with health markets in March of 2021.
So I want to talk a little bit about what that year looked like for you. I tell most new agents coming in that it's really hard to serve two gods. And candidly, I've seen a lot of agents fail when they have one foot on the dock and one foot in the boat, because they're not going anywhere. You somehow figured out how to navigate that uniquely differently than a lot of other agents that I've worked with. And so, well, I have my thoughts on why that worked for you, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I had to be very, very disciplined in my schedule. And so the first thing I did is I just set up blocks of time that were only dedicated to that specific job. So I had my church job, and Mondays were all for that. And so I didn't look at anything with health markets. It's really easy to let them bleed over, and then you really don't accomplish a whole lot. But I purposefully blocked out days, and then sometimes mornings and afternoons, to where I was giving 100% to that job for that amount of time. and broke it out over the week. And realistically, it was probably more like 30 hours a week for both. So definitely not running 80-hour weeks with both of them. But that structure, if I woke up, if I hadn't done that, there's no way I would have been successful. Just because I would have woke up wondering what to do that day instead of, I know this is coming, I know this is my blocked out time. So I do think it's possible to do two jobs. And sometimes, if we're honest, I mean, necessary, just simply because we all know the income doesn't flow like we want it to normally in year one. I think my year one 1099 was a whopping $19,000. So I needed that extra income, and sometimes that's what you need to then propel you on. But yep, structure, discipline, make sure you get that.
How did you know when it was time to take the leap?
I knew it was time to take the leap when my mind was consumed more with health markets than it was with my other job. And being in a ministry type job too, not being able to give my 100% there, I wasn't doing my job the best I could. So I knew it was time to take the leap. The church did give me a year off ramp, so it was very kind of them. We knew it was coming.
Yeah,
I was ready.
You had I believe in the very beginning, you had a deadline. I mean, you knew, and they knew exactly when that transition point was going to happen.
Yep. And so it was nice, and it was the right timing.
Yeah. So I know, obviously when we talked in the beginning, there were some things that drew you to health markets. I think that over the last couple of years, a lot of the things that drew you here probably kept you here. But I'm just curious, like from your perspective, why did you choose health markets, and what does that decision look like now, being able to look, hindsight?
Sure. Well, once I saw Derek Maybury's face for the first time, I was like, this is it. This is the place.
So it's all Derek Maybury? Come on.
No, I think one of the things that was really, when I was looking at, there was another company, an FMO, so a field marketing organization, that was also trying to recruit me and get me on board. And that's where the back and forth with Silas came from. But I think a couple of things that really set health markets apart was the camaraderie. Silas invited me to a team meeting before I actually signed up with health markets, and just seeing, as Silas would say, cross pollination happening, and listening to, at that time, agents just go back and forth with these terms. I had no idea what they were. But just listening to how they work together, knowing that I had a team of people to rely on, as opposed to just, had I signed up with this other FMO, I would have been completely on my own. I mean, this business is lonely enough as it is, even with a team of people. I can't imagine how lonely it would have been out on my own, and not having such an awesome group of people to lean on. But then, so the group was a big thing. Another thing was the vesting with Health Markets book of business. One of the things they really tried to sell me on with another company was that you owned your book of business 100%, which now I can see is both a blessing and a curse. You might make more street commission on some of the products that you sell if you are technically truly independent. But had something happen to me, had I wanted to, even switch careers, if that was something down the road, I would have lost my entire book of business, or I could have sold it, but then that would have been a one-time shot and I would have been done. With health markets, one of the bigger selling points was is it still 3 years, Silas?
Mm-hmm.
So after 3 years, I was 100% vested in the book of business, just simply meaning if something were to happen to me, I was to pass away, become disabled, whatever, that income stream would still flow to my family members, my wife, whoever I've put. And now since then, my wife's actually come on board, so she'd be able to handle the book of business. But just knowing it was kind of I don't know how to put it, just a peace of mind, knowing that the income, I wouldn't have to be burdened with trying to sell my book of business, was a very big selling point for me.
I agree. I think that's a huge currency. And I think we're doing a better job of telling that story, that you don't have to be licensed. You don't have to be certified. You don't have to continue to do your AHIP to continue to receive the revenue stream once you're ready to retire or back away, or God forbid you pass away or something. So yeah, I think that's wonderful. So I want to go back to like when you started, because there's a lot of new agents in the room here. You did some things I think uniquely different from other agents as far as the granular activities that drove new business in the early weeks and months of your career. Do you kind of want to talk through what some of those more granular activities were and how you did them?
Sure. I think that one of the biggest things that I decided to do was really make my local presence felt. Like I could have, I don't know if any of you guys come from any other marketing backgrounds or Medicare, but when I was looking at other companies, they were very much, you have to be licensed in a minimum of 3 states. You have to be able, like, they want you to cover a very broad area. And that just wasn't my heart. I didn't want to do that. So what I really focused on was I want to be known in my hometown as somebody that's helpful when it comes to health insurance. And so lots of brainstorming on getting out in the community. How can I partner with local businesses? One of the things I did right at the very beginning was establish a social media presence where I would pick one business a week. I would highlight that business on my social media page. And what would happen then is I would use their, let's just say, example, I'd have a local diner that's very popular here in town, thousands of followers on their Facebook page. So I'd walk into the diner and say, hey, I'm new in the area. I'm a new business owner. And this is one tip I would give you too, guys, is somebody told me when I first started, businesses are very willing to help you if you tell them you're a new business. Once you pass that 1 year mark and you're no longer technically a new business, they're kind of less likely to help you. Because if you're new, they understand because they were business owners once too. So take advantage of that, not in a bad way by any means, but let them know I am a new business owner. I am trying to get this new business off the ground and I could really use your help. And you will, I mean, I don't think I had anybody actually turn me down. So business owners are willing to help you. So what I would do is, for example, with this diner, I would say, would you be willing, if I bought a $50 gift card, would you be willing to come on and do a short promo with me? I can kind of promote your business and do this giveaway from your site. Hey, this is the North Main Street Diner. This is the owner, Alicia. Alicia's been in business. Here's why people love, build them up. Don't focus on yourself, but build that business up. Say, hey, I'm going to give away a $50 gift card. All you have to do, and this is what I would do, is I would say, you need to make sure you like their business page and you like my business page, and then we'll do a drawing. It was very simple. And sorry, if you can hear that, I forgot to shut my phone off. That grew it was like about 100 new followers a week on my social media presence. It was awesome. Got a lot of great feedback from that. I walked into a local coffee shop and asked them, when some of you guys, you all know when you walk into a coffee shop or walk in anywhere and you ask for a water, right? They're just giving you, it might not be a ton, but they're just giving away that water cup. They're giving away whatever small percentage of, and they get that hundreds of times a day. They're giving away a decent amount of money. So one of the things I did, I went to a local coffee shop and said, if I provided your water cups with my name and logo on them, would you be willing to use those as your water cups? They did. So they took me up on that. So for the past 3 or 4 years, every time somebody gets a water, they see my name. I did Kroger card advertising. I did a couple local billboards here in town. A local, it's called Coffee News. I don't know if you guys have Coffee News where you guys, but just like a lot of little things. And Silas said this at the beginning too. I don't know if I believed it at the beginning, but I believe it now that there's no magic bullet. I really did think I'm going to find the magic bullet. I never found the magic bullet, but I did find 5 to 10 things that I could do for the price of one magic bullet that would spread your name around town and be visible, like be in the community. don't don't be afraid to just walk, and not just for walk and talks. Walk and talks are very valuable, but just go sit in a coffee shop. The same coffee shop that I sat in, they allowed me to put a little sign up on the table that just says Medicare questions or health insurance questions, and it would just sat on the table, and you'd be surprised how many conversations just started up like that. Don't be afraid to ask for permission to do stuff like that. Walk around, go to your farmers markets, sponsor things. That was a huge thing for me too. Sponsor a $200 Little League team. Just be in the community. Let people see your face. Don't be a hermit in your house or your office.
I think that's really sage counsel, because I think somebody said this to me a while back, and it wasn't that long ago, but they said success in marketing is achieved through 1,000 different tactics. And I think there's some level of truth in that. Maybe it's not 1,000, maybe it's 15 or 20, but whatever the case is, people have to see you here and then see you here, and then somebody tells them about you, and then you become the expert, right? And I think, you know, not that I spend a lot of time in Auburn, but I think you become a bit of a local celebrity there with all this advertising and everything. People know who Kevin McIntire is at this point, right?
It was really funny. One of the funniest stories, I was at a local restaurant here, and the waitress came up. She looked at our group and she looked at me and she goes, "I don't know who you are, but I feel like you're Auburn famous." Is the Auburn famous. Like, I'll take it. I'll take Auburn famous.
So one of the things we're going to talk about in our training this afternoon is the Center of Influence letter. I think you did that as well as I've ever seen anyone do it. You want to maybe give a little context and some thoughts around how you did that and why it worked so well for you?
Sure. I went through, the biggest thing for me was my Facebook friends. And I literally sat down for an afternoon and just went through every single person that I wanted to know. I wanted them to know what I was doing. This isn't a letter that says, I want to schedule an appointment with you, or I'm going to bother you for the next 3 years of your life. It's just, I want you to know what I'm doing so that when the time comes for you or somebody you know who to send them to. Or I would appreciate it if you think of me. So I was pretty broad. I did try to stay local. I didn't spread it out too far, but I wrote down every single person's name. And if they're a friend on Facebook, then you can direct message them. And so what I would do is I wrote down, and I think I had a list when it was all said and done, about 400 people. And I sat down and sent each of them a very quick copy paste message, but it was just, "Hey, I'm starting a new business. I'd love to send you a letter to just tell you what I'm doing." I think I did put in there, I don't know if I put in there like, "Don't worry, this isn't a multi-level marketing company," something like that, because I didn't want them to be thrown off. But just like, "Hey, I want you to know what I'm doing. It's important to me that you know what I'm doing." And I didn't have one person say no. They all sent me their address. It was time consuming. I'm not going to pretend like I didn't dread that a little bit. But when I took all those letters to the post office and sent them, it kickstarted my career very quickly, at least in people's recognition of what I was doing. One of the things that really helped me was when I would see those people in public, they would ask me about it. "Hey, I got your letter. How's that going?" And it just generates conversation after conversation when people know. And I kept that Center of Influence list. And then I would send out, at least once a year, I would just send out an update letter. Like, "Hey, thank you. I'm still doing this." Because when you start something new, one thing I found out, and I'm hearing from people, is, "Yeah, we got your letter, but people start something new all the time. We wanted to wait and see if you were going to stick with it." And so once they see, now you're in year 2, year 3, year 4, now they're starting to take you seriously. And I want to encourage you guys too. One of the things that was most frustrating for me in the beginning was I was doing a lot of activity, but that activity wasn't turning into a lot of business. And I know that that's super frustrating. But the activity that you're doing now is developing that foundation in your community, the trust in the community, so that when you go into that year 2, year 3, I'm finding that my efforts lag about a year behind where I want them to be. So the work I did last year is why I'm getting business today. And one of the biggest mistakes that I made was when I started getting that business coming in, I stopped doing the things that got me to where I was. And I experienced a lull. Like it was scary. I was like, I worked hard for a year. Great. I'm finally getting phone calls. I'm getting appointments. My schedule is actually full. So I'm going to stop doing those things because now it's just on autopilot, right? And so I forgot to do those things. And I remember calling Cav. He probably doesn't remember this, but I remember calling Cav and being like, what is wrong? What am I doing? And um, in a nice, loving way, he just told me, you stopped doing the things that got you here. And you've sacrificed that. So anytime you stop those sort of activities, you're actually punishing yourself a year down the road. So I would just encourage you, even when you get really busy, always carve out time to do the foundational, the fundamental things, so that you don't experience that lull. Because that can be it's really nice. You start getting those calls and it's like, yahoo, I can stop doing all the stuff I don't like to do because now the people are just going to flow in, and that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Well, I think Cab was the right guy to call. I saw him smile. We call it the sophomore slump, and we see great agents go through it all the time. And it's often that second year where you worked your butt off and you get to a point where you're so busy that you can't do what got you to the dance floor any longer. And then 90 days later, you're in a slump. And I also think Cav teaches this well. It's a biblical principle, right? The time that you sow the seed is going to be a different season from when you take the harvest. And that's biblical. It's like reality. It's like, how things work. So I think, I think that's worth mentioning. So I'm curious, in the beginning, did you work leads outside of generated?
Yeah. Yep. I worked leads. I had the most success using Cav's texting system that he had. I think I was one of the original members of Stephen Cavajola University back in the day?
I think you were.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, yeah, his texting method, very simple. I can remember we were in the meeting, we turned our leads on together. And I remember getting a response while I was in the meeting with him. And I was like, dang, this is easy. Of course, then the next 50 didn't respond. But yeah, leads, again, I'll stress on the leads. I did use leads. Leads were productive. In fact, I will tell you one of the very first leads I ever took, his first name was Mark. And I got an email from him last week saying he wanted to talk to me about Medicare because I had reached out 4 years ago. Like it's ridiculous how things come around. I'm starting to see that.
Yeah. Do you still work leads today?
I do. I personally, no, I don't, but I'm thinking about starting it again, actually. That's why I was kind of hesitant, because I don't work them now, but I see where it's beneficial.
Yeah. But I also think there's a time and a place for, third party internet leads, things being generated by someone else, especially in the early months and year or two of your career. But I also think you should get to a point where you have enough other organic business coming in, referrals coming in, personally developed leads coming in, that you don't have to rely on that. And obviously there's no reliance at this point on that. It might be a way to expand your business, but you're not relying on leads any longer.
Correct. And I think my mindset had to shift, because in my mind, it was like, oh, I'm either working leads or I'm working referrals. And I think the reason I'm thinking about putting back in is like, no, it's just kind of like Derek, or not Derek, man, Tyler Decker. He is extremely successful, but that's still like you would say, an arrow in his quiver.
Yep.
Guys, I got so many Silas sayings, I could rip them off for you. I don't know. You missed, a lot of you new people. I see Dan on here, some of you guys, where we used to play Silas Just at bingo at Christmas, where we would put all of his sayings on a chart, and then every time he said it, you'd get to check it off. And that was a lot of fun back in the day.
Yeah, that was fun, actually. So that it was pretty disruptive in our meetings for those of you in the room, because Kevin would put together literally bingo boards for everybody at our Christmas meeting, and he'd hand them out, and they were all apparently sayings that he had pulled from other agents and things and put together. And so literally nobody was listening to what I was saying, just waiting for the keywords and trying to get bingo because there were some rewards we put around it.
Yeah,
So,
no, I think you even said it was the most attentive group of agents you've ever had.
yeah, you're probably right.
It was
No, that
great.
was a lot of fun. And you put a lot of work into that. I think 2 different years we did that, didn't we?
Yeah, it ran its course, but it was fun.
Yeah, we ran out of city.
Just looking at leads as it's not all or nothing. It's maybe I turn them on for 4 hours on a Monday morning, and that's it. Yeah,
Right.
whatever. Just something in your arsenal.
Yep, absolutely. So let's talk about, I know you have a storefront today. You want to talk about like storefront, how that kind of came together for you, how it evolved for you and where you're at with it
Yeah.
today?
So my store, this is another thing, guys, getting yourself out in the community, letting people know what you do. This came about simply because of that Center of Influence letter. I sent it out to just a guy I'd coached baseball with. I really didn't even know him personally, but I knew he owned a local financial advisory firm. And so I sent him the letter, and he actually reached out to me and said, as a financial advisor, this is a really big hole in our practice where we really don't know how to advise people when it comes to Medicare and health insurance. Would you be willing to go out to lunch with us? There's 3 of them in the practice. And I said, absolutely. So they took me out to lunch, and the more we went out to lunch 2 or 3 times. And by the 3rd time, they said, you know, we have an extra office in our facility. Would you be willing, for no charge, to come and occupy that office, not as a partner, but just so you're close? Because we have a lot of questions from our clients. It'd be nice to have somebody right there. We're not using the office. What do you think? Obviously, that was a no-brainer for me. Was able to sit in that office for my first 3 years, rent-free, which was a blessing. But none of that would have happened had I not sent that letter out or followed up or was in the community. So I'm not saying that that's going to happen for every single person, but I think financial advisors, accountants, I know there are some people on our team that have offices in with a P&C agent. If you can prove yourself, there you go, Cav. If you can prove yourself helpful, and the key is when you're talking to these people, I never focus on what I do, really. What I focus on is how can I help you? Like, what is it? What value can I provide to you that would make it worth me sitting in that office for you, or make it worth you sending me referrals? Because I was reading a book, Ninja Selling, I think is what it's called. I like it because the chapters are like 5 pages long. But one of the things they said is people will give you referrals if it makes them look good. And that's what I want to be. I want, if somebody, a financial advisor, anybody, I want to be the kind of person that when they send somebody to me, I make them look good, because that's only going to give me more referrals from them. And if you focus on that, that's the way to get referrals. You don't go walk in saying, I do this, I do that, I can do this for your clients. No, it's how can I help your clients? Can I give you a chart of ACA subsidies? What would be most helpful to you? Here's a Part B premium IRMA chart. Here's, I just did a morning meeting with a financial advisor firm in Fort Wayne last week. They brought in all their financial advisors, and all I did was answer their questions about Medicare. And it was awesome. I never once talked about what I did. So just be helpful. Be helpful to people. That's what's going to get you the most referrals.
How did this storefront evolve then? Because it is different today than it was 4 years ago when you started.
Yes. So when this building, about a little over a year ago, the building was sold. And the new owners basically said, we're no longer going to allow you to subcontract an office for free. So there was another suite that opened up in the building. Did have a second office, which allowed my wife to have her own space as well. So we took that.
Let's talk about Erica a little bit. I know you had a dream when you started 4 years ago. Your wife was working in the school district full time, and it was truly a dream that you guys had that you executed on, what, close to a year ago now?
Yeah, she
So
retired.
tell us that story.
I mean, she was an amazing teacher. She taught kindergarten and she did it for 10 years. And I could just see the drain on her face the last few years. And it was just a dream that we could work together, that I could, through Health Markets and through our company, would we actually have the opportunity to allow her to retire? Um, and after year 3, we decided, let's go ahead and make the jump, mainly because her stress level, I don't know if you are or know any teachers, but um, man, they're just, the jobs that they have to do for the money they get is just ridiculous. Um, so her line was always, I love the kids. I just hate, I hate all the systems that are in place. She said, if I could just teach kids, I would love my job. So it was kind of sad because she was a great teacher, but at the same time, her health wasn't worth her staying. So we figured it out financially, decided to bring her on board. She's now a licensed subagent, and she started just before AEP last year.
Yeah, that's been awesome to watch you guys make that transition. So
Yep.
day-to-day operations today, how many appointments are you running on a weekly basis this time of year?
I mean, our goal is always 8 to 10. We are pretty consistent with that. Some weeks you're going to have 15, some weeks you're going to have 3. So it all averages out, but I would say we average between 8 to 10, and that's pretty spread out between Medicare and under 65 people retiring.
And where are the majority of those appointments? Like, what's the source, the lead source today?
Um, Referrals. I mean, I always ask, how did you hear about me? Um, and it is interesting. I will hear a lot of people say, well, I saw your face on the Kroger cart and my friend, or this friend and that friend. It's very rarely one thing, which opened my eyes a little bit, making sure that I'm keeping multiple points of contact out in the community. I will say more recently, we've really started focusing on Google reviews, and I'm getting a lot more people just calling me from Google. And I will say, I've had to be very intentional about the Google review. People are not going to fill out a Google review on their own unless you suck. Let's just be honest. That's when they're going to go fill it out because they're going to tear you apart. But if you are, what I always ask at the end of an appointment, if I feel comfortable with them, I will just simply ask them, especially when they ask, I don't know if you guys get this at all, but people will ask me, what do I owe you? Like they expect to pay something. And I'll say, you actually don't owe me anything, but what would be really helpful is a 5-star Google review if you felt like I've provided that level of service for you. Oh yeah, absolutely. And so I actually have I have these little guys on oh my gosh, stop calling me. Okay. That's not a client, by the way. I don't want you to think I talk to my clients like that. Stop calling me. So I have these little plates. There's no Health Markets logo. There's nothing. This doesn't have to go through compliance. At least I don't think it does. But
Doesn't.
it's called a DigiPlate. And it just says, leave us your review on Google. If they say, yes, I'll leave your review, they can either tap their phone, which guys, for people that are over 65, this can be pretty hilarious sometimes. Because they're like trying to slide their phone over, they're slapping it. It's really funny. Or just scan a QR code. And what it does when you do that, so you probably can't do that over your phone, but when they take their phone and they hold it up to that, it opens up I don't know what you call that. Like it'll just pop up on their phone, the top. They click on it, and then when they click on it, as long as they're signed into their Google account, it just opens right. I don't know if you can see that. It opens right to the review.
Yep.
They click 5-star. What I say is, if you don't mind clicking 5 stars and then saying something nice about me, that would be great. And they chuckle and they sit there and do that. So we just started that not too long ago. I think we're up to 40, 45-star reviews. Our goal is 200 by the end of the year. But I would say I mean, people are going to look you up on Google. So I don't know what the requirements are now for is it 10,000 FYCRs to get a
Yeah.
Google presence?
10,000 FYCRs, and we open up that capability, and Health Markets promotes you.
Yeah.
So
It's been very valuable.
yeah, absolutely. So Randy is one of the new agents in the room, and he actually just had a write-in question for you. So he walked to the front of the room and handed
Andy.
this. So I'm just going to read it to you. He says,
Randy.
"Did you do a lot of these tactics in the beginning with confidence in yourself, or before you felt confident?" That's a really good question.
That's a great question. I had zero confidence. I'll be very honest with you. I, I, okay, when I started, I was 42, 43, and had yet to experience the level of success that I was hoping to achieve at that point in my life. So I did not really have any real belief in myself at that point. I knew it was this business, as you guys have all found out, is difficult. This is not a get rich quick. This is not a, snap your fingers and you're going to be wealthy. This is a hard, grinding, year after year after year business to get to where you want to go. And in the beginning, I had to question whether or not I was willing to do that, to be honest. So I think one of the things that helped me in the beginning was Cav and Silas. You used to tell me, you can't see it. Sorry, I got to take a drink. You can't see it, but we can see the trajectory that you're on. Stay the course, kind of a deal. And honestly, I'm in year, what, 4, 5? I'm just ended my 4th year into year 5. And I still struggle with self-confidence. I'm a tier 4 agent. I love what I do. I love the business that I built, but I'm still not 100% self-confident. You still doubt whether or not I'm going to be able to hold this position. Those doubts creep in of, okay, when am I going to fall out of tier 4? When's the bottom going to fall out of this? All of that. So I think you have to work from a position of desire more than confidence. Like you have to work from a position of this is where I know I want to go. And in order to get there, I just have to do the things that get me there. So no, I don't think you can really rely on your feelings a whole lot. You just have to rely on what's worked for others and be willing to sacrifice to get it done.
And I think what you're saying too is we have a path that if people will run on it, they will be successful. And I truly believe that. Like there's no question in my mind. The one place where I see new agents fall down and even veteran agents fall down is just they stop grinding or they never start grinding. They never start working 40 to 45 hours a week doing the inputs that need to be done. That's probably and a lot of people ask me, why do people fail at this? I'm like, because they don't go to work. Like they don't really grind for a period of time.
Yeah. And we're not used to working so hard and getting paid so little, like in the beginning, right? Like we want to work hard and we get paid for our work. We have hourly wages. We have salary jobs. Being on your own and commission is, that can be a terrible, lonely, awful place to be at the beginning because you feel like you're getting zero results, but you just don't know. You don't know what you're doing. Not you don't know what you're doing. What I mean is you don't know how you're impacting your future by doing that. Like you said, sowing those seeds at the time. So if you really have a desire to be successful, you will be. But Randy, to your question, no, you don't. I was not confident. Still struggle with that.
So and I'm not asking you to share personal, like exact income numbers, but do you want to share the income growth story that you've experienced over the last 4 years?
It's laughable. It's just really like, I look at it every year and I'm like, all right, Tony Letcher wasn't kidding. You really can make a decent amount of money. So yeah, my first year, I think my W4, it was about 19,000. And I started in February. So it was a good full year.
And it's probably worth notating. I just want to step in here really quickly. That was what your 1099 was for. You actually had more cash flow than that because of the advances that were coming in, correct?
Well, my first, yes, I would say probably more because like it wouldn't have been a ton. I didn't do a ton of supplements the beginning, but yeah, I would say it was probably in the mid-20s maybe of actual cash that I brought in. But I did have that other job, which that's what allowed me to really to do this. It was that second income. Um, so my first year about 25, then what I decided to do was listen to a guy named Matt Tallman, uh, which I don't advise that. I'm just kidding. Matt. No, Matt's awesome. So I saw him that he was successful in his Medicare AEP. It was my first AEP. And I wanted to know what he was doing because he had a very successful AEP the year before. So I took him out to lunch. He literally said, take live transfers, and then just ate his lunch. It wasn't any big deal. But him and I then kind of started this back and forth, my first AEP. And I just absolutely, I worked way too hard. And Silas will tell you I did work too hard. But that first AEP, I was able to write 75 policies, which really propelled. It took me from that 75 during AEP, took me from tier 1 in January, I hit tier 2, and in February it went to tier 3. So it was just a boom, boom, boom. And then we stuck at tier 3 for a year, and then the following AEP, we wrote 100 and it was a lot, but we wrote enough to get us to tier 4 at that point. So as Silas was saying, I know he was talking to you guys about AHIP, and I think AEP and OEP for the under 65, that's becoming a lot bigger as well, can be huge jumping points as far as your FYCRs go, and can really propel you. That's what has done it for me. We're the two big AEPs and OEPs that we had. So that second year, we were just under 100,000 in income that next year. So I think we were at 97. And then the next year we tipped the 200 mark, and then we're on pace to be about over 3 this year. So it's jumped a significant amount every single year.
A little more than a pastor's salary and a teacher's salary, huh?
Yeah, it is great. And it's awesome, guys. This is just my story, but I have always wanted to be I don't use the word blessing as like this weird term, but I've always wanted to be able to help people when I see them in need, and having the income that we have now, like, really frees you up to do that. To be like, hey, this person, I don't know, it allows you to be more generous. I don't ever believe in hoarding your wealth. I do believe that what goes around comes around, kind of a deal. And I believe in being generous with people. And so this job has allowed us to not only bless our lives, obviously, but to bless all the people around us.
Yep. And I say this a lot, and I want to keep beating this drum that money's not everything, but money makes everything a lot easier, and money equals freedom. And it's freedom to live the life you want, take care of the people you want, but also to give what you want, to leave a legacy. I mean, it's some really cool things that money can provide. And it's honestly sad that you can make this much more money being an insurance agent than you can being a pastor or a teacher, which are really impactful things, from a career perspective. Honestly, that's something I probably can't solve for, but it's something that is sad that it works like that.
Yeah, but I still view my job, honestly, as a ministry. I'm not out there. You guys as agents, you're not trying to sell something or give people something that they don't need help with.
Right.
You are actually entering their lives as somebody who can make a huge difference in their life. They may not see it that way at first because they just feel like I got to go through this, but there has been a lot of tears shed in my office from people. Just they're overwhelmed. And when they meet somebody that speaks good English, okay, that's good for them. Like, just having a local presence, they know they can call you when they know they can rely on you, and it takes that pressure off of them. It's huge. And what you guys do is, I know the way Silas puts it is it's a very noble cause. You're not just selling stuff. You are impacting people's lives on a level that sometimes they don't even expect.
Yep.
You just think you're going to be some salesman, and then you give them the advice, and you don't even have to charge them for it. Like you make a big difference in people's lives with what you do.
Let's talk a little bit about supplemental insurance, because I do agree with you. Your first year, it wasn't a huge part of your practice, but it has become a deeper and deeper part of your practice as you've grown in the business. And so I'd love to just hear a little bit about why that has evolved the way it has, why you have a passion for supplemental insurance, and maybe even a story around, how you've seen supplemental insurance impact the clients you serve.
I'll be honest with you. I think the first time I really started selling supplemental insurance was because it was a contest. And so it was just like, okay, I can make more money selling supplemental insurance. But what turned the corner for me is when those claims started coming in. So one of my first phone calls was from a lady who her son had been in an accident and was hospitalized. And she actually called me and said, Kevin, I just got this check for $12,000. I'm afraid to cash it. I think it's a scam. And it just blew me away. They were under 65, and it covered their entire, $9,000 ACA deductible. And she was just overwhelmed. And I mean, it was like $9 a month or something. It was the accident companion, I think, back when that was before Accident Wise. And so that story really got my attention. Shortly after, I had a few more claims come in. So the more policies you write, it makes sense, the more claims you're going to get. And as those claims started coming in, I saw how it was really helping people at their root, like at the core of, yes, it's nice to have good insurance coverage, but what really matters is what's that final bill going to be and what am I going to owe? So when I could look at somebody and say, listen, I know nobody wants to buy insurance, right? I mean, really nobody wants to actually buy it. What they want to buy is the peace of mind that comes if something happens. So when I can share stories that, hey, I had a farmer fall out of his tractor, broke his hip. He was in the hospital for 2 days, and he and his wife got a check for 12 grand from the Accident Wise policy that covered any wheelchair, ramps that he needed to buy, home health care that had to come in that his policy didn't. They don't have to worry about that. It's okay if people turn me down, but I will never not offer it. In fact, I've gotten to the point where I will make people just initial. If they decline, what we call the trifecta or whatever it is, hospital, accident, cancer, I will go over all 3 of those. And if they say no, I will say, okay, would you mind just initialing here? Just indicating that you are declining this coverage. And that makes them think a little bit, but I want to know, I offered it to you because one of the biggest impacts for me was when I had a lady walk into my office who was just diagnosed with cancer. And she said, did I grab that policy? Did I choose that policy? And I had to tell her, no, you did not. But I had written on the back, declined cancer coverage. So I knew that I had talked to her. So I don't make the decision for my clients anymore. But I offer it to everybody. If they say no, no problem. Just initial here. And that gives me the peace of mind that I need.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. Gab, that's from the archives. We used to do that 20 years ago. Like the stuff I've forgotten more about this business than I probably remember at this point, So, well, I want to take a look at the chat box. But while I'm doing that, I wanted to see, and I'd say before you log out, you should just scan the chat box because there's some great stuff in here for Michelle and others. Mariah had some really nice things to say about some of the comments that you shared. So yeah, I know there is a marketing on demand. Thank you, Bryson, for that. That's going to be coming up that agents can jump on.
Marketing on demand is awesome.
Yes, they do a wonderful job and really are evolving. But before we wrap things up, do you have a piece of advice or 2 that you would give to new agents who are either just getting started in the business or maybe have been in the business for a few months and are really struggling at this point? You're looking at, I'd say you're closer to them than Steve Cavajola is, to where they're at in their position with the company, their career path. You're in this 4 years and you've been able to reap some wonderful rewards from this. For Cav and I, that was 20 plus years ago that we were in that place. And so sometimes I feel like we're far enough removed that it's hard to remember where they were at.
Yeah.
But what would be your best piece of advice for somebody who is new or somebody who's early in their career and struggling?
I would say, number one, you have to know this is what your mindset has to be long-term. Your mindset cannot be, I'm going to try this for a year, and if it doesn't work out, I'm leaving. You have to, in my opinion, you have to be able to commit to it for 5 years. Would you agree?
I would.
Yeah. Like this has to be a long-term commitment. And if you can't see yourself grinding for 5 years, that's going to be an issue. Another thing is, do not be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out to me. I see some veteran agents here. I see Dan Blackatour. Awesome. Michelle, Emily, I know you've been in here a while. I can't really see a whole lot of faces going on, but do not think you're a bother to other agents. We had agents help us. And so if you're ever at a crossroads or anything where you just like, man, I just need somebody to pick me up because I can't do this on my own. Again, I'm going to go back to that whole lonely thing. This is a lonely business. And so don't be afraid to reach out. Any tier 4 agent, tier 3 agent, whatever, should be happy to talk to you and give you a few minutes of their time, if nothing else, just to encourage you. So yeah, that's one of the pieces of advice. Don't do it alone. I mean, I had Cav, I had Matt Tallman, more recently, coming in with Derek and Tony. And when you start hanging around the people you want to emulate, it rubs off on you.
Yep. I've had that conversation with my 17-year-old daughter here recently. In a good way. She's making good decisions, but I think part of that is the people she's chosen to surround herself with too. And I want her to understand that. So I think that's very.
Lauren asked me if I got my AHIP certificate my first year. I did. I started in February, and I think I had built up. I was really close to that 10,000 when AHIP rolled around, and so I decided to go for it. So I did.
Do you think? What are your thoughts? Should a brand new agent who's just getting started now do AHIP for the fall?
I don't want to answer that blanketly. I would say it really is individual. If somebody has a passion, like when I came in, I had a passion for Medicare. That's why I started, right? Like all my questions were around that. So because I had a passion for it, I really wanted to get into it quickly. And you allowed me to do that. However, if somebody comes in just like, well, I'm going to sell insurance and doesn't really have, if they're really starting from scratch, I would focus more on the under 65 until you get the repetitions built up, because Medicare is so much more highly regulated. A lot more hoops to jump through. And so I think it can be a double-edged sword sometimes, the Medicare space.
I also think for a new agent who needs money, like you've got to dump. I mean, there's probably the first time you go through it, a good 35 to 40 hours worth of work that needs to be done to get AHIP certified and all your carrier certifications and all of the things you need to be prepared, which I'm like, man, that's a full week's worth of non-revenue generating activity, right? And that's one of the things I struggle with, especially for new agents early in their careers as well. So I agree with you. I think that was very articulate and well said, that it is a kind of a case-by-case situation, and a case-by-case basis. And there's probably no right answer for everybody.
Yeah, but I would say if it's a passion, like I'm not in your seat, so I'm not trying to tell people how to do it. But if it's something somebody who's biting, chomping the bit to get at, sure.
Yep. Do you have any final thoughts before we wrap things up today, Kevin?
No, I'm just rooting for all of you. I think you guys, I don't know, you guys, I'm looking at all your names here, so I'm expecting to see a bunch of you hop over that red line soon, if not already. So
yeah. Well, man, this has been awesome. As we were talking here, and just some of the things you were saying and the way that you deliver, I can honestly say, and I don't say this lightly, it's one of the best summer speaker series sessions we've hosted in the last couple of years. I think there was real value and real meat here. And so thank you for moving your 10:30 to 11 o'clock. And thank you for engaging, and thank you for being a great friend and a business partner, buddy. I appreciate you.
Ditto. Good luck to all of you, and we'll see you at the next Friday sales meeting, because you'll be there in person, right?
Right.
All right.
All right, my friend. Well, thanks for joining us today. We do appreciate it. For those of you who had to jump off a little bit early, I will send out the recording for this and for Tyler's from 2 weeks ago as well. I think two really spot on discussions have happened here. So hopefully you guys can pull something well from it. So
Evidently Mariah doesn't, I said ditto. She said, did he just say ditto? Yes, I did. I like ditto.
ditto. All right, my friend. Well, have a great week. We'll see you next Friday.
See ya.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for being here. See ya.